So we finally have something new. Ralph's Club Parfum is out and available for purchase finally here in the US. It seems like it's been a little while since I've done a first impression on a new release, and that's because things just kind of came to a stop there. Hopefully now that we're moving into a new quarter and we're kind of moving towards a fourth quarter here, slowly but surely, we'll start getting some more stuff out here more consistently. I'm pretty excited to continue to cover new releases. It's actually one of my favorite things to do here on the channel, is to kind of go and get my first impressions on stuff like this. It's always cool to get in something new. And it really is exciting when you're a fan of the fragrance that came before it, you know, when we're talking flankers. I really like Ralph's Club Eau de Parfum. This is what they started it out with. They started with an Eau de Parfum, which is pretty cool. Came out in 2021, last year. So they're not wasting any time to get the flankers going. So we have a Parfum. I would imagine we're gonna end up getting like an Eau de Toilette Intense or like an Eau Fresh or something, and maybe some sort of other Absolute or something along those lines. I know they're not gonna stop here. So I'm pretty excited. Let's break into this one and we'll see how it smells. So here's the bottle, very sharp looking. As you can see here, we've got the similar coloration up top, the kind of gunmetal look to it, but then the bottom, instead of being somewhat transparent, translucent, it's pretty much just kind of matte blacked out, which looks really sharp, and it definitely does fit the Parfum trend. You can see they are definitely making the logo in the middle there known. I think it looks really cool. That same logo is also on the cap of both of these. Really nice, sharp, sleek presentation. Get a couple sprays on here. I'm hoping this is going to be good because I like Ralph's Club and I like Parfum flankers, so we'll see what we have. So initially here, now, ooh, this is one thing that'll make me cringe, and the sound just made me cringe. It gave me goosebumps. See the little specks of fragrance that landed on this right there? I don't know if it's probably not even going to show up. It's going to make me look stupid. Flecks of fragrance is on this bottle right now from when I sprayed it, when I atomized it. And you could see it, and then I tried to wipe it off and it made a terrible noise. I'm not going to do that again. But anyway, yeah, right off the bat here, I'm getting some warm spices, a little bit of a sweetness, and I know that it's from the Cardamom. I took a look at the note breakdown before doing this, actually before I even ordered it, you know, as I was on the page checking it out, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome because I see Cardamom. Now, it's a note that, you know, brands could just put in just to put in, right? Note breakdowns can be completely fabricated, so I wasn't for sure if this is a note that we were going to end up picking up on, but I'm getting a good dose of Cardamom. Now, it's not to the point of something like La Nuit de l'Homme where it's super, super heavy. There's still some freshness mixing in. You're still getting some of that Ralph Club kind of clean, semi-blue fragrance, sweet DNA going on to kind of balance that out. But you do get it, and it's a really nice twist. We will take a look at the notes here. We've got lavender oil, we have apple and grapefruit up top, we have clary sage, geranium, orange blossom, absolute in the mid, and in the base we have cedarwood, vetiver, patchouli, and cashmeran. Now, they didn't even list cardamom there in the actual notes, but when you look up at the summary, it does say there is a spicy infusion of cardamom up top. So, you know, a little bit of an inconsistency here with the notes and the description and that sort of thing, but nonetheless, I do get that cardamom. I'm getting just a nice clean lavender, a good dose of cedarwood, and that's kind of also giving it a little bit of a slight warm spiciness. You know, cedarwood can kind of come across dry and a little bit textured sometimes, and sometimes even a little bit sweet depending on the variation, and that's kind of how it is here. You know, just giving it a little bit of a different feel. If they were using like a sandalwood, for example, it would be much more smooth and even going in a creamy direction, but that's not how it is. Vetiver's coming through more so as it's starting to settle down here on my skin, kind of giving off just a little bit of a clean woodiness. Patchouli also, which is kind of giving it a little bit of a more of a sweetness and a slight earthiness, so to speak, which I do really like and I do enjoy. So I want to smell the opening one more time. Up in the air, that is, and it's intoxicating. I really, really like this opening. Now, it's important to note that smell up in the air compared to when I first sprayed it on my skin in the opening is a pretty good difference. So it's important, especially with something like this, to make sure that when you are testing it, to apply it to your skin. You know, spraying it up in the air or on a tester strip isn't going to give you the full picture, especially here in this case. Now this one is a true Parfum concentration, lists it on the bottom of the bottle. Sometimes, I wasn't really expecting it in this case, but sometimes brands will put out like a Parfum. It'll be like a Eau de Parfum Intense or something like that, a little bit sneaky, or they'll label it a Le Parfum, but it's still an EDP, but this is a true Parfum. And I could tell just by how it's sitting on my skin right now that it definitely does feel like a Parfum. It's probably not going to show up on the camera, but where I have it sprayed on my hand, I can see there's like an oily film, so to speak, and you'll often get that with higher concentrated fragrances. Typically eau de colognes and EDTs won't really leave any sort of substance, and you really can't tell that it's there. As you go up in concentration, you can start to see a little bit of that. And just even the way it smells, it has that richness, that impact, and that depth that I do expect from a Parfum, and that's a really big plus for me, because Parfum is kind of my favorite concentration. As it dries down, a little bit of that warm, spicy cardamom is starting to drift away, making room for a little bit more of an aromatic transition here. Aromatics with the woods, you know, the cedar wood, that sort of thing. Kind of like, I don't know, it's a nice combination here of woods, aromatics, but then even a little bit of almost a floral feel. And that's going to be coming from the orange blossom, which is kind of strange, but I'm picking up on that more and more as this is starting to settle down. The orange blossom, it kind of reminds me of almost like a certain MFK fragrance. I know it's kind of weird, I'm comparing a designer to a very high-end niche brand. I can't think of what it is. I don't know if it's Aqua Universalis Cologne Forte that I'm thinking of. And by the way, I'm not comparing these like side by side, like, oh, this smells exactly like it. I'm talking about the orange blossom note in particular. As this wafts in the air, as I'm moving around here, I can pick up on it and pick up on that orange blossom, kind of giving off a slight fresh floral. As you go in closer and smell it, that's where you pick up on more of the spices and the woods. It's just kind of an interesting note. And that goes back to what I was saying about the depth and the richness and the complexity. There's multiple layers to this scent that you don't really always get from a lower end designer fragrance or a cheapie or whatever, or even from some eau de toilettes and that sort of thing. So I think from that standpoint, the people out there who are more of a fragrance enthusiast may actually be a little bit more drawn to this one, because it's multifaceted. You know, there's different things that you can pick up on. If you smell it close, you smell it far away, and it's just really kind of cool. I'm kind of, in a way, a little bit fascinated about this one, a little bit perplexed. I think this here is an impressive flanker. I wasn't expecting the flanker to not be that good or anything like that, because again, the EDP, the original, is really good. So I had high hopes. I didn't think they were going to mess it up. But this actually kind of exceeds my expectations, and that's pretty cool. You know, the clary sage and the geranium are really coming in strong as it sets down farther, and that's where the aromatic smell's coming from. And that's very similar to that of the original, so that does make sense, and I was expecting that. The original, very clary sage heavy, very aromatic driven, and so it's kind of starting to morph back into that. But still, it also is continuing to kind of separate itself from the original Eau de Parfum to where it's not going to be redundant. You know, it doesn't get to the point, or at least it's not right now to the point where it's exactly the same or 90% the same or even 85 or 80% the same. This is still kind of its own fragrance. It has its own personality, its own character, and it's kind of almost like a little bit of an evening out twist on the original to some extent. Although to that point, I do think it could work during the daytime as well. I think this is going to be very versatile. We'll have to see about performance. So far, it's doing well. It hasn't completely fallen on its face yet. I will say, though, I can tell it's going to be a little bit softer in its projection. I think it'll do better at leaving a trail. Given the concentration, that does make sense. But I do think that because it is a Parfum and the original does okay, hopefully we can get decent longevity out of this one. We'll have to see. So I think that's going to do it for me. I was really excited about this one. It has definitely met my expectations, and it might have even exceeded them a little bit, which I wasn't expecting. Ralph's Club Parfum. If you've tried this one yet, let me know what you think down below. I will link it down below as well. Make sure you get subscribed so you can see these first impressions on new stuff, as I have a feeling we're going to start to ramp up the new releases coming up soon. Get subscribed for the lists, but also get subscribed for the community posts. If you haven't checked out my community tab, I'm posting deals over there several times a day. Bookmark that page, get subscribed, check it. You can save yourself a lot of money. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you subscribing and liking the videos and commenting and all that stuff. Really does help me out. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.